they get so focused upon what's in front of them, what they're shooting at, that they lose perspective about what's going on around them. And that's exactly what you're seeing with General Keane and with the advisors around Trump, Stephen Miller and others. They're so obsessed with thinking that they can degrade Iran's ability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And yet they're not taking time to say, okay, how many Tomahawk missiles do we actually have? You know, I think right now the total inventory globally is 2,500. And people say, well, hell, you just said there's only 1,000 targets there. So if we use one of those in each of those targets, voila. Except what we forget is that Indo-PACOM, the U.S. commander for the Pacific, used to be called PACOM, Pacific Command, they've got a requirement for a certain number of Tomahawk missiles for their missions to accomplish, as well as same thing for the JASSMs. EUCOM, European Command, same thing. So when you spread out, allocate what should be allocated to each of those commands, all of a sudden you realize we're at beyond the critical threshold. In other words, once we start using those, and we can't replace them for a combination of reasons, that the Chinese control the rare earth minerals that are needed for the magnets that go into the precision guidance systems in each of these missiles, that we're right now, it's like we've cut our wrists and we're bleeding out and we don't realize it, or we're not paying attention to it. And then they forget the depth that the Iranians have. Now, Keane was correct with it. You know, he said, yeah, the surface drones, the underwater drones, the coastal defense missiles, the short-range ballistic missiles, the fast boats, all of those. And he forgot to mention mines. You know, at some point, Iran can say, screw it. We are going to mine the Omani Strait. And they say, we may mine the entire damn thing. So nobody's going to get out until our demands are met. And and to reinforce Colonel Wilkerson's point about the shortages, the oil that comes out of the Persian Gulf is what's known as sour crude. It's primarily sour crude, and that means it's got a high sulfur content, and that oil is used in the refineries out there that are going to produce diesel and aviation fuel need that particular kind of oil. And so it's both a refinery issue and a supply of oil issue. But the bottom line is we've got a global shortage of diesel and aviation fuel right now. And that shortage is only going to get worse with each passing week. And until that Strait of Hormuz is open, and let's say once you get it open and oil flowing back like before, you're looking at least of 2 months, maybe 3 months before you get back to a level where they can actually start replacing the supply. So what I'm saying is right now, so we're here in July, we're almost coming towards the end of July. So you got August, September, October. It's not, if things got fixed today, we would not even have any hope of getting back to normal until November. That is one of the big problems that they're ignoring.
And I think that's one reason that they've seemed to have sped things up, because they're beginning to realize that some of this background is there. And some of it is really, really inimical, especially to their interest of being reelected in November.
I was wondering how much of what's going on, Colonel, is related to the domestic policy or the domestic sort of interactions in the United States. Because we know J.D. Vance is desperately doing everything to make his case for 2028. That is different. But when it comes to the Trump administration, what are they gaining? How is that going to help them for the midterm elections?
I don't think it's going to help them at all. I think they're in deep trouble. No matter what dimension of it you look at. Look at what just occurred, which I didn't think could occur with this administration. We had several TV mainline TV that wouldn't broadcast his remarks last night. And we had others who were skeptical about it and actually mentioned their skepticism during or afterwards. This is a man who's losing his grip on the domestic situation. As a consequence, his party is losing their grip on the domestic situation. What was 100 or so voted against any more aid going to Israel? I mean, that didn't work. It didn't form a majority and make it work. But nonetheless, it's indicative. And it's indicative of the problem they're going to have in November. And I don't think they know how to deal with it. I'm worried that they might deal with it through force. And that would be a real tragedy for us, I think. It might even lead to civil war. But I do think they are getting worried, deeply concerned about whether or not they're going to be able to hold on to power. And when I don't necessarily mean Trump, I mean the whole entourage, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the whole group who've enjoyed this kind of licentious power for so long, and they want to continue that. They want to keep it going. I think they're going to have deep, deep political problems in doing that. And this is just going to augment it. What Larry said is basically Putin has refused diesel outside Russia. We're looking at a situation where I think the diesel markets are going to be very grim in this country within 30 to 45 days. I think we're going to have truckers and we're going to have others who need that diesel representing an opposition. And most of these people probably, I shouldn't say this, but a lot of them are probably MAGA stalwarts. They're not going to be MAGA stalwarts after that. So you're looking at a disintegrating domestic political situation for Donald Trump, exemplified by last night's sort of coverage of his remarks. And you're looking at, and we haven't even talked about this, Ukraine, and Ukraine being at a crunch point probably in the next year, certainly, but maybe even earlier than that if we see a Russian move that is dramatic and quick and ends Ukraine's chance totally across the board, except maybe for guerrilla warfare. And then we are looking at a Europe, brain dead Europe, that said it's going to do so many things that is it going to do them? Are we going to have Ukraine in NATO by extension? I mean, even the Poles right now are revisiting, I say even the Poles, Warsaw is revisiting its relationship with Ukraine, seriously revisiting its relationship, as it well should be. Put these two theaters together, and I could see a real significant, almost existential problem for the United States over the next 12 months, one in Europe and one in Southwest Asia. And our enemies, such as they are, out there chortling over it. Not just because we're running out of essential munitions, but because we've shown how brain dead we are and how we can't. This leadership is incompetent in terms of dealing with these crises. And they are crises. They are crises.
Yeah, you got to look back at wonder what the hell was Trump doing in that speech Thursday night. It was essentially almost a declaration of war on China. Now, I've written for quite a while now. It was 6 years after, but that the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump, but it wasn't stolen because of the Chinese or the Russians or the Venezuelans and all that crap. It was done the old-fashioned way. Ballots were printed on Long Island, New Jersey. And I know this because my business partner actually, he has interviewed all the postal workers that were involved. He's identified the place where they were printed. The guy that was printing them was involved, had money laundering convictions, but they printed all these ballots. They were sent out and distributed, and they were stuffed into ballot boxes. That's how the damn election was stolen. And instead of Trump doing anything about that, he's blaming the Chinese. And when you go back and look at what he said, he didn't offer one
shred of evidence,
piece of evidence. Exactly. Not one. To say, yeah, the Chinese may have hacked the voting rolls. So what? Did they vote? No, well, we don't have evidence of that. So you got to step back and say, what the hell is this guy doing? says, I have not yet seen the Chinese readout, but I suspect it was not one of, oh, we welcome the president's remarks. No, I think it's going to be a scathing, like, just takedown of Trump. So instead of focusing on, gee, how can we have a better relationship with China? We just sent a message, China, once we finish getting our ass kicked with Iran, we're going to come and get our ass kicked by you. That's the message.
And I would just add to that, as Anatol Levin had a piece yesterday, I think it was, in Quincy. Andrei Malachenko has just come out with an article in The Economist, of all places, because The Economist had to take him to task about it in their introduction of the article, because they've been absolutely brain dead in their support of what's happening to Russia and Ukraine. He came out almost like George H.W. Bush and the people surrounding him at the time of the end of the Cold War, and said, we need to get back to the kinds of things we were talking about at that time. And this is a guy taking a little bit of a risk to come out. He's one of the better oligarchs, if you will, better economic minds. And he's coming out not because, as The Economist intimated, that he wants to identify the rat that is Putin. He's coming out and saying, in essence, we need to get back to that time. We need to get back to dealing with one another again on a decent basis, on a don't call it friendly, just call it a capitalist basis that works. That's what he's writing about. That's what he's saying. This is the last chance, people. This is the last chance to reach out and grab that hand and not make Anchorage a farce, but make it a real diplomatic endeavor and return to some sort of decent relations eventually with Moscow. Otherwise, we're going down that road too. That road is paved with nuclear possibilities as well as Southwest Asia.
Larry Axis reported that the United States is going to expand its targets, going more to the central part of Iran and hitting the infrastructure, basically. And then right now we've learned that in Kuwait, they started rationing power usage throughout the country after Iranian strikes targeted one of its major power plants. And Donald Trump said that Iran is losing very badly and we hold all the cards. And this is the situation. On the other hand, IRGC, just moments ago before coming to this live, the commander of IRGC Navy warned the United States, says the Americans are bringing themselves closer with every passing moment to the 0 hour for operation against CENTCOM's naval units in the region's waters. And this is basically it seems that they're moving more these weapons. I don't know, those aircraft carriers, 2 of them are in the region and they're going to use those. Are they going to move toward Iran, get closer to the Iranian borders? What is your understanding of that?
Well, if they get closer to the shore of Iran, they're going to get hit. And that's, Iran's putting them on notice right now. I think that those are the, I think a large, a growing percentage of the missile strikes are coming from carrier-based aircraft. And the strikes that Iran is carrying out on Muwafaq al-Salti and Prince Hassan Air Base in Jordan, those are the two, that's the principal location for much of the U.S. combat air operations. Apparently, they've used Al Udeid for the KC-135s for air refueling ops, but to my understanding is the United States has not forward deployed this combat aircraft in, say, the UAE at Al Dhafra, or in Al Udeid in Qatar, Al Isa in Bahrain, and Ali Salman in Kuwait. And again, from Iran's standpoint, every day they're going to keep pounding. They're going to hit Kuwait if the United States carries out these attacks further in the interior and starts going after civilian infrastructure. Iran's going to take out the civilian infrastructure in Kuwait and Bahrain. They will become uninhabitable. They already hit the bridge yesterday and they got the U.S. hit the bridges in Iran, and Iran immediately turned around and hit the bridge that joins Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. No reports on how much damage was done. The Iranians also reportedly hit a U.S. special operations camp in Al-Tanf in Syria, and reportedly destroyed some equipment that killed American military personnel. There's been no confirming reports out of that from the Pentagon. But I would say the bottom line is Iran holds the strategic initiative over the United States simply because it has fewer targets to attack. And if with every one of those attacks, they are effectively driving the United States out of the Gulf. By making these bases uninhabitable, the United States can't just return personnel there overnight. No, they're going to have to spend a lot of money maybe to upgrade them, and it's not clear the United States is ready to do that. And so Iran's focus right now is there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them turn to increased attacks on the carrier strike groups, number one. But then also can't rule out, I would say within the next 2 weeks, and I'm basing this upon what I've heard from a friend who was in Tehran for the funeral, and he was in Mashhad as well for the funeral of Ali Khamenei, that senior Iranian officials are telling them that they're going to have a big surprise for the West within a couple of weeks. One of those surprises could be, hey, we have a nuke. And so you're going to have to reconsider, because if you keep attacking us, we'll use it, that kind of thing. That would cause everybody to pull up. And I know the conventional wisdom is this, well, if Iran did that, Israel's just going to hit Iran with a nuke. No, not so quick. Because at that point, Israel's got to take into account, they got a nuke now. Yeah, we can hit them and take out Tehran. They can hit us, take out Tel Aviv and Haifa. And you take out Tel Aviv and Haifa, you don't have an Israel anymore.
Yeah.
You see how we're driving this, Nima? You see how we are pushing this and pushing this and pushing this, just like in Ukraine. We're pushing it to our own demise.
Yeah.
It seems that Israel currently is happy with the current situation because they're not getting hit. They're somehow feeling so comfortable in the southern part of Lebanon.
Yeah, and Bibi's feeling good too because he's going to lose. He's desperately trying to fashion laws that will protect him and his wife for the rest of their lives. And if Eisenkot wins, or any of that gang wins, then the situation is going to be roughly the same, but they're going to be just as desperate. Just as desperate. Your insinuation or your statement that they are building facilities in Lebanon in order to thwart whatever might be coming down the road. Well, what if what's coming down the road is what Larry just suggested, and how is Lebanon going to help you with that?
Carl, the air defenses in GCC countries somehow show that how they're short of interceptors, they're short of, that they don't have that much. The Patriot systems, by the way, I haven't seen that much of interception by these systems.